Hey everyone, it's Kelly. Thanks for joining me. I am back today with a new layout and process video for the Cut Shop, and today I'm going to be using the Let's Party cut file, and I do have a really simple and basic Cricut Design Space tutorial to start. So I'm going to start out by bringing the Let's Party cut file into the design screen, and I'm going to do that by clicking the images icon on the left side of the screen, and then in the search bar at the top of the screen, I'm going to type in Let's Party because that is the title that I gave this cut file when I saved it into Design Space. So I'm going to bring that into the design screen, and then I'm going to resize it to 11.5 inches because I know that I want to cut it really large. I want it to be a large focal point of the layout. And then once I have that resized, I am going to bring in a scrapbooking template by selecting the template icon on the left side of the screen and then choosing the, I think it's photo memories from that drop down and clicking scrapbook layout. And that will just put a 12 by 12 square on the backdrop. So it's easier for me to see when I'm sizing things and getting things arranged for my 12 by 12 layout. Now on this particular day, I was having a hard time seeing that outline with the grid on the design screen, and I'm not sure why it was like that. Normally I don't have a difficult time making out that scrapbook template, but because I was having a little bit of a difficult time, I just removed the grid lines from the background. And you can do that by clicking the little square in between the horizontal and vertical measurements on the design screen. If you just click that a couple times, it changes the way that the grid is set up. You can have larger lines, smaller lines, or no lines. And for this one, I decided to go no lines. So when I was initially thinking about what I wanted to make for my scrapbook page today, I was thinking that I wanted to create a stencil with some stars. I knew that I was going to create a birthday layout using this banner cut file, but I wanted to add something a little bit extra to the background. So I'm going to insert a star, and I'm going to shrink it down pretty small because I do want to do a bunch of them on the background. So I shrink it down to about 3/4 of an inch. And I am going to change the color of it because I want it to stand out from that black cut file image. When you insert a shape in Cricut Design Space, it automatically defaults to that real dark gray color. And it was a little too close to the cut file color, and I wanted to make sure that I could tell the difference between those images as I'm putting them on the background. And I'm not sure if you noticed, but if you haven't used Design Space in a little while, they have moved where you change the color of the images and the pattern fill and whether you're going to write, cut, or score the image on the design screen. It is now on that top bar that goes across the design screen. So I went ahead and I duplicated that star numerous times, and I am just bringing that cut file back over to make sure that a lot of the stars are going to be visible. Again, my thought was to use this as a stencil with some modeling paste, so I wanted to make sure that you could see where I was positioning those stars on the background. Now, one thing that you want to keep in mind is when you're specifically placing things on the design screen that you want to cut in a certain area, like I wanted all of those stars to be positioned exactly as I had them on the design screen. You have to make sure that you attach those images, or when you send them to the cutting mat, they will be just like you saw there, where they're all in a row instead of being scattered all around the 12 by 12 page. So all you need to do is draw a box around all of the images that you're wanting to attach together, and then click the attach icon on the bottom right hand side of the screen. And when you go back to the cutting mat, you'll see that they are exactly as you see them on the design screen. So I know exactly where they're going to cut on my 12 by 12 background, and it will be just as I designed it. And if you've been using a Cricut for a long time, that's something that you are well aware of, but I do have quite a few beginners that watch tutorials on my channel, so I just wanted to make sure that I explained how that attach feature works, especially when you're designing something such as this. So I went ahead and cut the banner from the Let's Party cut file on a piece of blue pattern paper from the Create Paper Hooray collection, and now I'm just going through some other pattern papers that are included in that collection to see if I want to use any of those as a background. Here is that star stencil that I cut using my Cricut, and I decided to go ahead and go with my original idea of using the stars as a stencil. So I'm going to prep this white cardstock. This is just a plain piece of white cardstock with some clear gesso, because I thought what I would do is use white modeling paste through the star stencil, and then use a lot of watercolor and maybe even some distress oxides to color this white cardstock to make the stars pop off the background. So once that's dry, I'm going to bring in that stencil that I cut using my Cricut, and I'm just going to use some washi tape to hold those two pieces of paper together, just to make sure they don't shift around as I am adding the modeling paste through the stencil. And I do apologize for the lighting in this video. I have a little bit of light peeking through my blinds in my scrapbook room. I've recently moved where I sit in my scrapbook room, and I need to figure out what I can do to keep that light from peeking in between the blinds. So you're going to see that just in the beginning part of the video. I think as the sun sets, you don't notice it as much, but I am sorry that you can see a little bit of some extra lighting there. As you can see, I'm just using a palette knife and white modeling paste and just adding that modeling paste right over this white cardstock, using it just as you would use a normal stencil. I do want to make sure that I do get white modeling paste over all of those stars because I want to make sure that that texture is showing all along the background. Now the modeling paste is dry, and I don't know how well you can see it here because it is white on white, but I went ahead and spritzed the cardstock with water, and now I'm just coming in with some cheap watercolors and just adding that watercolor right onto the cardstock. I am using a lot of water because I did want it to have that runny, drippy look to it, and I thought pink would be a nice contrast to the blue banner that I cut. And there you can see what I was going for. You can see as I'm adding the watercolor, the stars are starting to pop off the background. So I'm going to keep going and adding more watercolor. I do have this sped up quite a bit because this ends up not making it to the final layout. I end up deciding it wasn't quite what I was going for, and I end up switching gears a little bit later on. I do use my heat gun to dry this in between. You do need to be careful when you're using your heat gun anytime that you're using modeling paste or texture paste, because it will cause the texture paste to bubble a little bit. So I decided to bring in another color, and this is a Distress Oxide ink, and I just took it and swiped it right along the cardstock and then spritzed some water and using a paintbrush to help blend it and just move it around on the background. I think that was my mistake with this layout. It made it a little bit too streaky. I didn't really like that look. So I decided to go ahead and cut the star background one more time. And this time I'm going to use it just as a tone-on-tone cut file. So I'm going to use the white cardstock with the stars and just place it on top of another piece of white cardstock just for a little extra dimension and a little extra texture on the background. I also felt like that banner from the Let's Party cut file was just taking up too much room on the background. I am using two photos from my son's most recent birthday, and I wanted to have just a couple embellishment clusters. I wanted to have one around the photos on the top left, and then my plan was to add another embellishment cluster on the bottom right. And I was just having a hard time balancing the design with that fifth banner in there. So I just went ahead and cut out the middle banner because I want to have a large opening in between the banners on the top left, which is where I will position my photos. And then to balance the design, I wanted to have a large opening between the banners on the bottom right so I could add another cluster just to help even things out on the layout. So I am going to be using quite a few embellishments from the Crate Paper Hooray collection. I am going to use the die cuts, the stickers, the 12x12 chipboard sheet, and then I'm also going to use the thicker phrases, which is what that word yay comes from. And here I'm just going through the ephemera die cut pack, just trying to see if there are any little bits and pieces that I want to add to the layout. And I'm going to go ahead and put that birthday cake down on the bottom right. And then I thought about using that yellow hat that is from the thickers sheet, but it was a little bit too much yellow. I didn't really have that much yellow going on this layout. It was more of the blues and the bluish greens. I do have a little bit of yellow in the balloon cluster at the top, but I decided to go ahead and swap out the yellow hat for this pink hat with the blue pom-pom on the top and the silver sequin. I love that chipboard sheet. I love that it has the sequins included on a lot of the pieces. I feel like that just adds a little bit more festivity to this collection, which it's super fun. So I'm going to go ahead and adhere down my photos just lightly. I am going to use my sewing machine to add some stitching along those banners. So I want to make sure that they aren't secured down too tight because I'll need to lift them up a little bit to stitch along that top banner. I am going to adhere down the star, I don't really know what to call that, the star cut file paper on top of that white cardstock before I add the stitching. And I'm just going to go ahead and stitch along the banners. and it's really messy. My sewing machine wanted to jump off the banner because I didn't really have them secured very well. I just had a little bit of adhesive right in the center because I thought that I might want to fluff up the banners for a little added dimension. So it's messy, but I like it. I did leave the threads long because I like that look. I like when the threads are long and messy. I feel like it adds a little bit more interest to the layout. And then I'm just going to move on to bringing the embellishments back over. So I'm going to start adhering everything down, just getting everything positioned where I want it to go. And I don't really think I add too much more to the layout. I will add some journaling, but that's pretty much all that I'm going to do. I am going to talk a little bit about the photos while I'm putting this together. So my son Aiden recently turned 11, which I cannot believe that I have an 11-year-old child. I just do not feel old enough to have an 11-year-old, but his birthday was on a Monday and my husband works Monday nights. So we went to my parents' house to celebrate his birthday. I ordered pizza and we went over there and had dinner with them. And I didn't make him a cake this year. I just went ahead and ordered one of the large cookies from Pizza Hut and put some candles in it, and he blew it out, and he liked that just as well as he would have liked a birthday cake. But he didn't have school this day because of cold weather, and I had happened to take the day off work, so it was really fun getting to spend the whole day with him, and he was excited that he was able to do whatever he wanted to do on his birthday, that he didn't have to go to school. I was a little disappointed because I missed his classroom party, which this will probably be the last year that he has a classroom party. I'm not sure if they do those in middle school or not, but I had taken the day off just in case I could go in for that. But it was nice getting to spend the whole day with him, and I watched him play some video games, and he got to play video games almost all day, which he was super excited about. But it was a good day. He had a fun day. And if you've been watching my channel for some time, you know that he was a micro preemie. He was born at 26 weeks. So he was born 14 weeks before his due date, and he was in the NICU for 12 weeks. And I am just filled with all sorts of emotion on his birthday. You know, I think as most parents are, we're taken back to the day that the child is born. And I can still remember the emotions that I felt that day, and just the not knowing of what was going to happen, and just being really unsure. I know that most first-time parents are unsure of what's happening, but in our instance, it was a little bit different because he was really, really sick. And we just feel so blessed and so fortunate that things worked out the way that they did. You would never in a million years know that he had that rough of a start. We are so, so grateful to the doctors and the nurses at the hospital that we were at. I'm still close with quite a few of the nurses. I still talk to them on a fairly regular basis. We're friends on Facebook, so they've been able to see him grow up, and it's just been an amazing journey. So I think that all parents can relate to that when it comes to their kids, and especially on their child's birthday. You are just filled with those type of emotions. So it was a really good day, and I am glad that I went ahead and got it documented. I am going to add a few lines of journaling. I don't talk too much about what I just mentioned. I more or less just tell him happy birthday, and I just put the things that he was interested in at this age, or the things that he was wanting for his birthday. I did use my We Are Memory Keepers typecast typewriter to type that journaling out, and then I just cut it into some thin strips, and I'm just going to add it underneath that embellishment cluster. So the only other thing that is left for me to do on this layout is I did want to bring in a little bit more black, because my journaling's in black and the photos are in black and white. So I'm just using my Heidi Swapp black color shine, and I'm just going to add some splatters all along the layout just for some extra pops of black. And once I have that on there, this layout is finished. I will bring the layout a little bit closer to the camera so you can see it in a little bit more detail. And then I will also have some still shots at the end. And I'm sorry that this part is going so quick. Normally I try to slow that down when I bring it close to the camera, but for whatever reason, when I tried to slow down that segment of the video, my video editing software was wanting to delete about 90% of the video. So I'm gonna leave it at that speed, and you can check out all the details in the still shots that I'm showing you now. I do wanna encourage you to head to the Cut Shop store so you can check out all of the cut files and digital collections that Ashley has available. I will make sure to post a link in the description box below. If you have any questions about the products or the techniques that I used, please feel free to leave a comment in the comments below, and I will be sure to get back with you. As always, I do want to thank you so much for watching. I do appreciate all of your views and likes and comments. They really do mean so much. So I hope you all have a great day. Bye.